Today we're talking all about ID camps and how they help you get exposure in the college recruiting process.
Sure.
So for the parents that are listening and the players, tell me what exactly is an ID camp and why should I be looking into them?
Yeah, I think ID camps are really good in that you get to spend a good amount of time with a select amount of coaches, depending on which camp you pick. I recommend, for younger players to go to camps that have a wide array of different programs, academically, athletically, just to get the maximum exposure. But the NCAA is so restrictive in terms of what coaches can do, in terms of speaking to players, in terms of getting to know players. But the rules kind of taper down a little bit at camps where, yeah, you could play in front of a coach, but you can also spend time with the coach. The coach can actually get to know your personality a bit more. So I think it's like a win-win for youth players and for coaches because we get to know the players on a different side than we would if we're just watching them in matches. But for the player, same thing applies to them.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about those NCAA rules. Like, when's the first time that a player can reach out to a coach?
Yeah, and I would say NCAA rules are changing constantly in this day and age, which makes things even trickier for players and for parents. But right now, coaches cannot have any conversations with players or parents until they're entering their junior year of high school. And I would say that's a good rule for parents to know that, like, why isn't my sophomore getting looked at? Why isn't anybody speaking to my sophomore? Well, if they were, they would be breaking rules. But at camps, those rules go away a little bit.
All right. So why is it that, players can't talk to coaches before their junior year? And
Yeah.
how do you see those rules changing in the future to help players out a little
Yeah.
bit more?
I think what we have, and I hate to knock certain sports, but everything comes down from football and basketball. And I think back a long, long time ago, coaches were hounding players. So everyone looks at the NCAA and says, well, why do they have all these rules? Really, they're in place to protect the players. The NCAA is, cognizant of coaches were going to high schools, coaches were going to games, coaches were sitting outside driveways. Coaches were trying to communicate any way they could. So that's why we have a manual of about 450 pages, and it's all really to protect, the well-being of the student athlete.
Absolutely. So moving on to things we can control.
Yeah.
So we can't talk to coaches until we're juniors in high school. So why is it important that I start the recruiting process early? And when do I even start that recruiting process, given that I can't even talk to a coach or the coach can't talk to me until my junior year?
Yeah, I would say from the player's end to be proactive, and I would not wait till your junior year. And I think a lot of like DOCs and coaches, tell them to start writing as juniors. But the reality is, we're trying to look at freshmen, we're trying to look at sophomores. I would just make sure you understand that when you write, all you're probably going to get back is like a camp correspondence, because that's literally all we're allowed to send. We're allowed to send camp correspondence and questionnaires. That's it. Those are the only two things. But to be able to let coaches know that you have an interest in their school, I think is really helpful. If we're getting a letter or an email, I should say, from a top freshman or sophomore that's at a really good club, and he tells us what event they're at, obviously if we're at that event, we're going to definitely make some time to go over and take a look.
Absolutely. So how can I make myself known to a college coach at a higher level? You said that you're going to these events and you're going to see these high-level players. How do I make it apparent to you that I'm a high-level player and that you're going to want to come and watch me play?
Yeah, I think first is the type of email that you write. And if I walk back from sitting down with you to my office, I bet you there's 20 emails from different players. But I would encourage players to spend a lot of time on trying to figure out, what's the right fit for you. Rather than just dumping in and looking at logos and spitting out letters, I would really do homework on the academics, on the student body, on the team, on the major that you're interested in. And I would make sure that when I'm reading that letter, I know this player is genuine and has a real desire to play at Grand Canyon. then that's going to separate that player from just the generic email I get. And I'd also tell you, take your time with these letters. I bet you I get 5 a week that are addressed to the Portland coach or addressed to the Clemson coach, or they say, Coach Gelnovich, because George and George, same first name, but they forget last name. So I'd make sure that you don't have errors in your email as well.
Absolutely. So you said to do a little bit of research and make sure that you don't have errors and that you're showing the coach that you have a genuine interest in playing for their program.
Yeah.
That's definitely, a big highlight and something that players should take in consideration. So
Sure.
how can an ID camp help me determine what colleges that I want to play at?
Yeah, and what I would say for the younger ages, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, even part of the junior year, I would focus more, and there's plenty of different camps out there. Every school have their own camp. I would focus on those ones that bring in, 10, 12, 15 coaches from different programs, different levels, different academics, so that it's more of a broad stroke. And then I'd say as you start to get further in the process and older where they can start to, when you start to narrowing your schools, I'd actually recommend going to that actual school's ID camp. So you get to see the campus, you get to interact just, more in a individual coach and player relationship rather than these broad ones.
Absolutely. So before I even go to that ID camp, what should my preparation look like as a player? What should I be doing off the field, and what should I be doing on the field to help myself get ready to play in front of potentially my future college head coach?
Yeah, and again, there's different things you can do. The number one thing you can do is put your phone down, and that's you look at. I go to a camp, and how many want to play Division I? Everyone has their hand up, but they have no idea what it takes. They have no idea that you're waking up at 5 a.m. to show up at the facility at 5:30 in the morning. You're working with a strength coach in the spring. The time commitment behind it, the sweat, the tears, the energy that goes into it. So first, make sure you know what you're going after, and that you're really all about being involved in the game at the highest level. So that would be number one, and the primary focus. Yeah, your email needs to be right. Yep, you need to be in the best environment in your area. You need to be playing at the highest level that you can potentially play at. All those things are critical, but those things are like end result things. I think the biggest thing is make sure you're focusing on, how's your technical ability. You look at like the 4 pillars of the game. They haven't changed. The game is it's gotten faster, there's always 4 pillars, and it's the technical piece of it, the tactical piece of it, the psychological piece of it, and the athletic component of it. So make sure that and what I say by put your phone down, there's so many players that the only time they're touching the ball is when there's a coach around. I find the players that play at the highest level, they're getting their friends for pickup. They're touching the ball, on their own. It's not just, okay, I practice Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and that's when I train. They're obsessed with really getting better at the game. They're juggling the ball when they're watching their younger brother or sister play. They're playing pickup. They're hitting the ball against the wall constantly. They're just like submersed in getting better as a player. That would be the number one thing I would tell them to do to get identified.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned putting the phone down, right? A lot of the stuff that I tell the players that I mentor and I coach is, hey, you've got to show really good character traits and you've got to show really good qualities. What are the qualities and character traits that you look for in the players that want to play at your college at an ID camp?
Sure, and if we're just talking ID camps right now, I love when the players are showing up to the camp, because usually it's an 8 a.m. For them that might be an early start. For me, we've already been up for a few hours, but how do they present themselves when they actually check into the camp? And is mom and dad answering the questions for the young man. Are his shoulders down? Is he staring at his phone when he walks up? What does he look like? Is he wearing proper, soccer attire? There's a sniff, there's a smell to it, there's a look to it. It's how you walk up. Are you making eye contact when you check in and the coach gives you the instructions? Do you know where you're going? When we tell you where to sit, do you sit in the right space? All these little things that we're gonna be flying all over the country. We're gonna be spending a lot of time with these young men. So you want to be around good people. You want to be around people that are really engaged and on the front foot and don't need mom and dad to help them get to where they have to go.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, a lot of these ID camps, especially when you're younger in the recruiting process, they've got a lot of different coaches. Let's say I haven't narrowed down what schools I want to go to. Is it a good idea to still go to these ID camps even though I don't necessarily think I'm going to go to one of those different schools?
I would say this, when you're talking about a major thing that could change the course of your life, when it's really time for you to start making decisions, do you want that to be your first ID camp and deal with that stress, or do you want it to be like your third or fourth and you're really comfortable with it? You're in a controlled environment. You walk in, it's not your first rodeo. So I would for sure at a younger age put my kid, yep, I said it, parents, put your kid through some stress, let him deal with some adversity, let him walk in on his own, let him check in. When Bobby Muse from Wake Forest is standing there, or Chad from Notre Dame, and you look at the logos, and that could cause a reaction out of players when it's their first exposure to it. So I would say get them comfortable with it.
Absolutely. So bringing that into it, the mental part of the game, how important is it for players to put themselves through that stress during their club experience, during their high school experience maybe even, so that when they're in front of these higher level coaches and higher level college coaches, that they're prepared for it? And talk me a little bit through the mental side of playing college soccer.
Yeah, the mental side is what separates, finding the best players is not really difficult. To be fair, if I go to a field and watch, I don't like to have to be there for too long to really identify, okay, who are the kids who can play, who are the kids that can't play. But then you want to look at them as you start to get serious. Some of the best players, I've watched them when their team was losing 2-0. What were their mannerisms? What was their approach to it? How did they treat their teammates? How did they deal with the referee when the stress, the heightened level of stress, or day 2 or day 3? I remember I was watching Chris Bondi, who's a Herman Trophy winner. I watched him at 8:30 at night at the Sun Bowl. And I was like, do I go to this game? Don't I go to this game? I went to this game, and you watch Chris. This is day 3. I think it's raining, and literally it looked like it was first 5 minutes of the competition where he was just on it. I had no thoughts in my head that he was tired, or he didn't want to be there. Kid was engaged on it, and look, he's pro for a long time, won the Herman Trophy. But we're always looking, when the coach is talking, are you in the middle of the pack? Or are you standing a little bit to the side? Are you fixing your cleats? What sort of engagement? When the referee, calls a foul, are you constantly chirping at him while the game's going on and helping your team lose because you want to chirp to the ref, or are you locked in on what's next? I would say the mental piece of it and how you deal with stress, how you carry yourself when things are good, when things aren't good, we're looking at everything from the minute you walk in to the minute you leave.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So to go back to, the player side of the piece, a big thing in college recruiting that everyone might know is the highlight video,
Yeah.
right? And so how do you determine a player, based off of his highlight video compared to when you see him in person? What similarities are you looking at, and what differences are you looking at to differentiate between the type of player he is by looking at his highlight video compared to what you see in person?
Yeah, and I'd say highlight videos are really important. I'll also say this. I'm not going to take a player off the highlight video. I tell you what I will do, though. I will say we're not interested in that player off a highlight video. So the highlight video needs to draw us in. And to be fair, if I'm getting 1,000 emails a week, there's 400, highlight videos coming with them. So I would go back to the 4 pillars of the game. I would keep it really simple, and then understanding your position. If you're a right back and you've already done your homework, GCU likes to have its outside backs bomb forward, and that's something you like, and that's one of the reasons why you want to go there, because you did your homework and you are an attacking right back. So, what does that? I'd write down, okay, a good attacking right back, makes good decisions in the back third. When he gets in the final third, he doesn't just cross balls, he's able to pick guys out. Very good 1v1 in the attack, very good in combination play. So I would make sure you show an attacking piece to that right back spot, quick, good actions, couple assists, maybe a goal at the back post, a couple entry balls, and then move to the next side of it. So, okay, great, you're really good at going forward. How are you when you're isolated, when a guy is coming after you, when a guy is going at you 1v1? So what's your 1v1 defending like? What are you, always, you see a lot of goals, it's because the weak side falls asleep. Right? And then, they're slow to recover. Then all of a sudden, the guy gets beat on the other side of the field. Then you see him on film start to sprint, and it's too late. So are you proactive in your defending? Do you have a good IQ? Are you getting into good spots quick? I would make sure you show, those things on highlight videos. Shorter passes, longer passes, defending, aerial balls on the ground. Guy running at you, guy faced up. And with all of that, I'd make every one of those areas quick and simple.
Absolutely. So staying on the topic of highlight videos, how long should my highlight video be? You mentioned that you can get 1,000 emails a day, right? And this is something that I've been preaching to my audience and to the players that I mentor. Coaches like you are busy. If you want to play at the highest of the highest levels of Division I soccer, you're going to want to continue to reach out and grab that attention. So how long should my highlight video be, and how often should I be sending it to you?
Yeah, I would make it quick, minute and a half, 2 minutes tops. We're at a Christian university. I'm not interested in some of the videos we get. They have F-bombs all over them, insinuating different. A little music is good, because watching a video with no sound is a little bit dry. But I would control the narrative on the type of music you're playing, and then I would also say the timing of your highlight video. If it's right before the MLS event that's coming up, that's when everybody's sending them. So can you send it 6 weeks before that and let them know you'll be at that event? I think that's helpful, the timing of it. If we're on the road to go play San Diego, I wouldn't send it when we're on the road. I would send it when we're back. I would send it, be conscious, wear our shoes too. And not, why aren't they talking? Why aren't they watching? Wear our shoes too. We have a lot going on. So the timing, the length of it, and then the quality of it. I'd also say a lot of players get it wrong, where they send us a video, but we have no idea how to identify the player. The circle's over here, the player is over here. And I'd also say the height, the level at which the game is shot at. If you're looking at some ground level game and the video's flying around like crazy, you have no idea what you're looking at, we're just going to turn it off quick. So I'd spend a little time, make sure it's at a good elevation, make sure it's a good shot. It's not too zoomed in, but it's zoomed in enough to see. When you sit back and watch it, say, yeah, I can identify myself. I definitely see the actions I'm looking for. Has good recognition of somebody that has no idea who I am, can identify when I'm involved, because there's a little highlight over it, very descriptive, so when we watch it. And then sometimes they send videos from different teams, so that confuses us a little bit too. So just be really clear with the footage that you send in.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to just reiterate, the fact that players need to consider all options, right? You guys are on the road. You're busy, you're looking at other recruits, and you're at all of these events. Your time is valuable, and just because you don't get an answer right away from a high-level Division I coach, or any college coach for that matter, doesn't mean you shouldn't stop trying, right? I mean, how often should a player continue to be reaching out to you?
Yeah, and the first thing I want to say is make sure that because yeah, I want to play here, I want to play there. Make sure where you're reaching out, maybe it's a little bit of a reach in some cases. Maybe, it's right where it should be, or maybe it's a safe option for you. I would definitely have different buckets where the program fits in. And then, so does your quality mirror the type of program that you're reaching out to? And I think that's where they got to do some soul searching and making sure, because the reality is there are some players that have a really inflated view of themselves and feel like they could play anywhere in the country, but yet when you watch the video, the ball bounces 5 yards off them when they receive it. So make sure it's realistic what you're shooting for. But I think the communication, if you're reaching out to them 2 or 3 times throughout the year, I think that's really helpful. And then, when you're doing it as a sophomore or a freshman, make sure you understand you're not going to hear anything back. And if you do hear something back, I would cross that school off your list because that school's cheating. So, make sure you know when they can get back to you.
Absolutely. So you said, gauging the level and determining what type of level you can play at in college soccer.
Yeah.
How does an ID camp help me do that?
Yeah, I think an ID camp, in terms of the level of play that goes to that to be honest can be a little bit mixed. I think the best way to do that is watching the ESPN Plus games. If you're in an area and the school's close enough, I love, I want to play Division I. What game did you go to this year? Well, I didn't go to any game. Are you watching the level you're competing at? And again, maybe we're in Arizona and we're recruiting you on the East Coast. There's certainly the same type of level schools on the East Coast you can get out to and watch. But then are you watching our ESPN Plus matches? Sometimes we're on linear television. If you're thinking about a major decision in your life and you haven't watched them play 15, 20 times, then I would tell you that you're really not that invested in it. I should be able to ask you, if you're really serious about coming to play at GCU and you're really vested in it, and they send a little blurb, but when I talk to you, oh yeah, what'd you notice? Who's the best player on the team? Who'd you like the best? Okay, you're a left back. What'd you notice about Felipe last night? What'd you notice about Damon last night? I would study it. I wouldn't just, spit emails out and come up with some random list and go fishing. I would invest some time in it. I think I would know you've invested time in it, and I think it's going to help you.
Absolutely. So not just, showing up, but being a student of the game, living and breathing it every single second you get. If that's really the level of soccer that you want to play at.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult. The top of the pyramid to play there, and how you get there. It takes a certain personality. And then there's a bunch that get there and they're like, "What am I doing here? This is too much. Putting too much time into this." So one, if you're not, I said it earlier, if you're not doing stuff on your own with the ball, if you're not watching, Premier League games or whatever league you like, if you're not watching college soccer matches, but then you want to go, I mean, I don't think players understand the commitment it takes to play at the highest level. I love it, and I loved it. And most of the guys here love it, but some chase something, but they haven't really done their homework on it.
Absolutely. So where do you see, college soccer going over the next 5 years? What do you see in the level, and what are players going to need to do to prepare to play at the highest levels?
Yeah, I think what's going on in college athletics is great. And I think when you sit down with coaches, there's a bucket of coaches that are complaining about why things are changing. They're looking at how things used to be. But right now, every college soccer coach has the ability to build like an empire. In terms of being able to help players more financially, in terms of being able to raise funds to build better rosters. And I think as that starts to happen, as it keeps going. I was talking to a high-level coach, and they're at a really good pro. I won't name it out of respect to them, but they've won national championships, constantly winning conference titles, and they were complaining, and they're against what's going on. And he says, I don't think it's going to last. I think this will happen for a few years. So I said, okay, when I talk to you in a year or two, and you keep losing players because you're not getting into the new way of things in college athletics, what do you think you're going to do? I said, I know what you're going to do. You're going to beat everybody in that area and raise funds so you can bring more players in. So I think it's just going to be, one, great for the student athletes because it's NIL is starting to come to college soccer, and I think it'll be great for the game because it'll just be able to get every roster to attract better players that maybe have foregone college soccer because they were signing these garbage MLS deals or USL deals. Now we have the ability to compete with those contracts.
Absolutely. So if I could leave the players and parents with a little bit of wisdom, what's the one thing that I need to do and need to really focus on before going in ID camp that's going to make me stay on your radar?
Yeah, there's so much. But okay, we're already okay. We've signed up. We're going. That's what you're saying. That's
Yeah.
okay. So we're already through that. We made the decision. We're going. I think what I started with. I do think players showing up that looks the part is important. That it looks well rested. His hair isn't all over the place because it's early in the morning and he just rolled out of bed, like his parents dragged him there. So I think that piece is important. I wouldn't go out and buy a new pair of $280 Nike cleats or Adidas cleats, and then halfway through the camp you have blisters, and then you're already there, so what are the things you can control? You can control your rest leading up to it. You can control, some players, I got an ID camp. I'm going to go work like crazy this week. And then they get to the ID camp, they're exhausted. If you're cramming in work before the ID camp, it's probably a little too late. I would back off a little bit. Maybe touch the ball a little bit. 2 days out, 48 hours prior to, ID camp -2. I'd make sure that you're getting a little blood to the muscles, touching the ball a little bit, but that when you come in, you're like ready to roll. Your body is in a position to perform well. Your mind is well rested, and then I would say when you get there, I say this, it's tough on players too. I'm sitting from the coach's side, but you have to remember when you're a player, these players are wearing a number on their chest at a proper ID camp. And there's 15 clipboards, and there's some of the best logos in the country watching them. And this has been their dream, and their parents talk about it. Everybody, what an amazing thing this is. But really, what does that do to the psyche of the player? Sometimes, you look, players try to be different than who they are at these things. When you start saying, I have to do this, you start saying, I have to do things, all you really have to do is breathe, eat, and sleep. That's what you have to do, right? So how do you simplify it? And then as you start to prepare, know that the coaches are humans, and the game, there's mistakes all over the game. So, don't show up and think I got to be perfect. And then I got to take on 20 players. I got to score 15 goals. To be honest, I'd rather a player that does a little less, but what he does well consistently all the time. So simplify it. Be smart. I'd also, when you go into an ID camp, you're with a bunch of players you haven't played with. So it's not going to be as fluid as it is with your normal team. But if a player plays a ball behind you because he's not used to you running in this space, I'd make sure your body language isn't negative towards that player. I'd also say there'll be some weaker players at the camp. How do you treat those guys? Are you a good person? And during water breaks, are you engaged with the coaches at lunchtime? Can you get side conversations going with them? And be genuine. If I want to play at your school, well, so does everybody else at this camp. Talk to me about something outside of that. Let me get to know you a little bit. But relax, enjoy yourself, go screw the game up a little bit, but do perform well.
Definitely, that's
perform well.
That's most importantly number one. And last thing I'll leave us with is, I've gone to your ID camp. I've gotten to know you. I've gotten to know the other schools that are there. How do I continue to stay on your radar, and how do I follow up with you?
Yeah, and I think first it's proactive on the front end. Any good ID camp, whoever they advertise is going to be there is there. So I'd assume those people will be there, and it's not just a logo; it actually has the coach listed. If it just has a logo, they could be sending some guy that orders the food for the program. So I would want to see a logo. I would want to see the coach that's coming. So then you can go online, send that coach an email. Hey, I look forward to seeing you at the ID camp. I'll be there. Very interested in your school, and then to follow up after it. But I'd also say ID camps, they're ID camps. They're not development camps. So they're for coaches to identify players. It's not where we're going to be able to go and I think the best ID camps don't let 200 kids in them. There's a small population of players, 100, 150 kids tops. Ideally, 6 teams, not 20 subs on each team, so everybody's getting good minutes when they go to full-sided stuff. But that you're able to follow up with the coaches after and see what they thought of you. I think it's good to follow up, and if you could cite something from the camp that has zero to do with soccer, I kind of like that. Other coaches may not, but hey, we were chatting about this. I hope you remember me. I was wearing number, and then bam, bam, bam. All of a sudden, yeah, I know exactly who it is.